Think about what life would be like if you were thrust into a world you barely knew, where nothing was the same. Today I will be informing you about the country Uganda in Africa. I have done some research regarding Uganda via the internet. I have gathered information about several important topics regarding Uganda. I have also acquired personal accounts about life in Uganda per my mother, who lived there personally while doing some missionary work. Today I will discuss some basic background information regarding Uganda, as well as the AIDS epidemic and the Lord's Resistance Army. I would like to begin by giving some background information about Uganda, their population, AIDS epidemic, government, and war. Uganda is about the size of Oregon, or 93,072 square miles. Background note 2010. The capital city of Uganda is Kampala, with a 2009 population rate of 1.5 million. Background note 2012. Cities that surround Kampala are Gulu, Lira, Jinja, Mbari, and Mbali. Background note 2010. Ethnic groups include Banganda, Bahima, Barkija, to name a few. Most of Uganda is of Christian faith. 85% are Christians. Background note 2012. The terrain is a combination of arable land, cropland, and forest. The climate is tropical and has 2 dry seasons. Background note 2012. Britain granted internal self-government to Uganda in 1961. The 1995 Constitution established Uganda as a republic with executive, legislative, and judicial branches. Background note 2012. Branches of the government include executive branches, which include the President, Vice President, Prime Minister, and Cabinet. The legislative and judicial branches include Parliament and the Magistrates Court, High Court, Court of Appeals, and Supreme Court. The President is Yohan Museveni and has been for many years. Uganda also maintains an embassy in Washington, D.C. It is no secret that Uganda has remained in the public eye as a result of the AIDS epidemic that swept their nation. There is an estimated 1.2 million people living with AIDS in Uganda. UNGAS Report 2012. An estimated 64,000 people have died of AIDS in 2009. UNGAS Report 2012. 150,000 of the 1.2 million people living in Uganda with HIV are children. UNGAS Report 2012. 1.2 million children have been orphaned by Uganda's devastating epidemic. UNGAS Report 2012. Orphanages have popped up throughout Uganda as a result of the AIDS epidemic. Organizations exist with donations to aid in the relief for orphan children. My mother lived in an orphanage in Uganda and said it was one of the most rewarding experiences of her life. The AIDS and HIV prevalence rates have reduced significantly over time. UNGAS Report 2012. But the future did not always look so bright. The first case of AIDS was diagnosed in 1982. UNGAS Report 2010. Since the first diagnosis, an estimated 900,000 people have died already of HIV and AIDS in Uganda. UNGAS Report 2010. The AIDS and HIV epidemic can be divided into 3 phases. The first phase saw the rapid spread in 1982. The second phase peaked in 1991 after the prevalence rate began dropping. The third phase stabilized and the epidemic remained steady. UNGAS Report 2010. CONI 2010 has brought focus to the fighting and war in Uganda, personalizing the invisible children. The Lord's Resistance Army is a militant group that was formed in 1987 in Okolai, ethnic region of northern Uganda. Lord's Resistance Army. The Lord's Resistance Army is also known as the LAR. The LAR is accused of widespread human rights violations, including murder, abduction, mutilation, and forcing children to participate in such activities. Lord's Resistance Army. This group was formed against central Uganda government and considered to be terrorists by the U.S. In 2010, President Obama signed into law the LAR Disarmament and Northern Uganda Recovery Act. This reaffirmed the U.S. communication to support efforts to end the terror of the LAR, Lord's Resistance Army. The efforts of the U.S. include increasing civilian protection, apprehending the LAR commanders, and facilitating LAR detections and providing humanitarian assistance. I would like to close by saying how incredibly lucky I feel to be living in a country that allows us our freedoms, a country very different from that of Uganda. We specifically looked at how different life in a country like Uganda would be, such as the population and climate, war, AIDS epidemic, and government. We discussed basic information about Uganda, the AIDS and HIV epidemic, and the LAR and the negative impact it has had on the country. Hopefully we can all take a look at our freedoms and rights and count our blessings. Our advanced medical treatment and those who fight for our country are truly amazing, especially when comparing life to that of Uganda.